Good evening, and what an honor it is to be here talking to all of you. I am told I make some opening remarks. It's not just going to be just few remarks, a bit longer than remarks, post which you'll have some interaction. So let me start. It may be an understatement that we are living through times of profound uncertainty, which is steadily rising before us. The world today grapples with multiple challenges, such as the conflict in the Middle East and between Russia and Ukraine. There is also the possibility of other destabilizing events, such as the dollar liquidity shocks, increases in global tariffs due to trade wars, and oil price shocks, all at the same time. In addition to these events, the emergence of a veritable China terms of trade, and that as a shock, has made it necessary for countries to take measures to safeguard their domestic production. However, how is the geopolitical churn that we see now different from the days of the World Wars and Cold War? A definite answer would be that the stakes are larger now. In the 1950s, we saw a chasm within the developed world which split into the Eastern and Western blocs. The two blocs together accounted for roughly 85% of global GDP and more than half of the world's population. The developing nations, on the other hand, received foreign aid, technical assistance, and military support driven by geopolitical interests, the bloc interests. Unlike the old days, now the geopolitical rifts of today place developing economies as key strategic movers, which is unthinkable, let's say, 20 years ago. Research shows that modern multi-aligned developing economies, if they decide to pick sides, will significantly change the economic powers of the blocs in terms of market power and population. Blocs don't exist as just two, today there are several blocs. As a quintessential modern multi-aligned nation, India's decisions will be watched by the world as we look to strengthen ties with nations that share a strategic coherence and play a central role in global supply chains. At the same time, India is also looking towards boosting domestic capacities, becoming more self-reliant in critical sectors, and building resilience against external shocks. While the past decades saw global growth led by broad multilateral trade, the coming years, I think, will likely be defined by strategic economic partnerships, and India is very well poised to take advantage of this transition. Despite this increasingly complex global environment, India's macroeconomic fundamentals remain sound, acting as a strong foundation upon which to build future growth. In 2013, India was the 10th largest economy at market exchange rate studies. Presently, it is the 5th largest economy, and the IMF has projected it to become the 3rd largest economy by 2027. India's contribution to global growth is projected to see an increase of 200 basis points in the next 5 years. India's good economic growth can be attributed to its astute COVID-19 management, coupled with series of measures undertaken by the government to strengthen its manufacturing capabilities, focus on digital and financial systems, simplification of regulatory procedures, and enhancement in ease of doing business. Just to draw your attention, other than the regular main budget which was presented in 2020 on 1st February as is done every year, that year saw us presenting 5 mini budgets. One to address the crisis, meaning within each announcement, the 5 announcements, every one piece had a combination of relief, hand-holding, targeted support, and reforms. So if we talk about Atmanirbhar at any point in time, self-reliant, not in the old-fashioned term, but becoming more comprehensively self-supportive, it all started then to make sure that we rapidly move on that pace. India's recent economic performance has been particularly noteworthy for its balance between growth and stability. While many countries have struggled with inflationary pressures, India has successfully kept inflation within manageable limits. Yet another metric of stability, the general government debt, including both state and the center, when I mean state, the provinces, has followed a declining trajectory in the post-pandemic period, even as major economies witnessed a surge in gross general government debt as a percentage of their GDP. External debt too remains at a comfortable 18.8% of our GDP as of June 2024. And students of economics will be interested in knowing that fiscal deficit is an indicator with which we have very clearly worked very hard, giving ourselves a glide path, and that which will be touching its lowest point as is decided by the glide path by the next fiscal. But post that we have not given a picture would be the normal allocation. But even in this budget we've already said, post reaching the lowest point, how are we going to approach fiscal management? And we very clearly have laid a lot of emphasis on debt management, debt to the GDP ratio being one of the sustainable indicators rather than the obsessive number-based fiscal deficit. And therefore, I give you a little leeway there to say, okay, India is looking not just fiscal deficit management, but it's laid upon also for a longer term. Inclusivity remains a key cornerstone to India's growth process. Between 21 and 23, for instance, the incomes of the bottom 20% of the households increased by 75%, while the middle income groups saw gains of about 30%. Importantly, this period also witnessed a reduction in income inequality, with the Gini coefficient declining from 0.51 to 0.39. This rebalancing of income distribution highlights India's progress towards inclusive growth. India's banking system has remained robust, with low levels of non-performing assets and high capital adequacy ratios. The financial sector has been crucial in sustaining growth by providing the necessary credit to fuel investment in key industries. Meanwhile, India's infrastructure development has surged forward with large-scale projects such as Bharatmala, Sagarmala, have both ensured connectivity across the country. These are just 2 examples. Investments in digital infrastructure, for instance, the third, have further strengthened our economy's ability to withstand shocks, with digital financial inclusion providing access to millions of citizens who were previously underserved. A strong buffer of foreign exchange reserves serve as an insulator in the face of adverse external developments such as disruptions in capital flows and oil price hike. Efficient exchange rate management and strong capital inflows have led to a build-up of sufficient foreign exchange reserves. At the end of September 2024, Forex reserves stood at 704.9 billion US dollars. And India became the fourth economy in the world to cross the US $700 billion in forex reserves after China, Japan, and Switzerland. Forex reserves are sufficient to cover more than 12 months of imports and more than 100% of external debt as of the end of June 2024. I, for a moment, with a bit of a shudder, would like to recall India 1991. What distance have we covered? We just will have to every now and then recall how much it takes for India to just throw away or discard earlier heritage problems or legacy problems. And this is time for us to recall that moment when all of us were putting our heads down to say, what have we done to ourselves? A source of stability on the external front is India's strong comparative advantage in services. India's share in the global services export rose to 4.3% in 2022-23 from an average of 3.3% during 15-16 and 19-20. India is now the 7th largest services exporting country globally, and a phenomenon in the sense that rise is phenomenal from 24th position in 2001. So 2001 you're 24th, then you move over to the 7th largest, although the percentage is 4.3 as of 22-23. India's strong macroeconomic foundation gives us confidence to face a future which has a lot of uncertainties. Our demographics provide an additional advantage with a young and energetic population that forms the base for sustained productivity growth. The next decade will see millions more entering the workforce, bringing new skills and innovation to the economy. As consumption and savings rise, India's long-term growth prospects remain anchored by these macroeconomic fundamentals. The global economic environment may present challenges, but India is well positioned to capitalize on new growth opportunities. The shift towards a more fragmented global economy, characterized by redefined alliances and changing trade patterns, could in fact work to India's advantage. As nations re-evaluate their supply chains, India hopes to become a key partner for many countries, seeking to diversify their sources of goods and services. India's rise in the Global Innovation Index and its growing influence in sectors like high-end capital goods, renewables, and pharmaceuticals signal its potential to become a vital player in global markets. India's large and youthful population offers tremendous opportunities for growth, particularly in consumption. With 43% of Indians under the age of 24, the coming decade will witness a significant expansion of consumer demand. This young generation is not only driving consumption in traditional sectors, but is also shaping new trends in technology, digital services, and in e-commerce. As they become fully integrated into the economy, we expect a strong rise in consumer spending, which will in turn fuel investment and innovation across various industries. Another key area of opportunity lies in India's burgeoning innovation ecosystem. Over the past few years, India has made significant strides in research and development, with a particular focus on leveraging low-cost, scalable solutions. This is evident, for instance, in our success in the pharmaceutical sector, where India has become a global leader in the production of affordable vaccines, and in the space sector, with Chandrayaan mission marking a significant achievement. These innovations have demonstrated India's ability to compete globally and the continued evolution of our R&D capabilities will further enhance our economic standing. One point to remember here is India's R&D, whether in space or in providing in-situ solutions for our infrastructure-related problems, have all been frugal. India's R&D products are very frugal, they're very cost effective. And I'm sure this is a joke or a light-hearted way of saying it. It costed us less to send Chandrayaan than to make a Hollywood film. So the frugal innovation is the feature which many of the countries today look for India's assistance or handholding in research. Yet another area of innovation opportunity lies with India's global capability centers. Have you all been to India to see any of the global capability centers? Have you all? Some of them are amazingly large. And today, many smaller units or smaller capsulated units are going to the tier 2, tier 3 towns. So they're not sitting only in those, let us say, Silicon Valleys of India, but they are moving around as well. So not just Bengaluru, not just Hyderabad, not just Noida, but moving all over. So they've become hubs for innovation and R&D, particularly in the areas such as artificial intelligence, digital services, and cyber security. With over half of GCC revenue, this is important, with over half of GCC revenue now coming from research services. They are not just backroom operators. They are not old-fashioned BPOs. So with over half of GCC revenue coming from research services, India is at the forefront of technological innovation in several industries. Moreover, the GCCs present opportunities for servicification of key areas of global value chains and aid in advancing India's AI know-how. Moreover, India's efforts in expanding financial inclusion have created a more vibrant and resilient financial system. The number of adults with bank accounts has more than doubled since 2011, providing a larger pool of savers and investors. This increase in financial access, combined with a more educated and skilled workforce, positions India to take advantage of emerging trends in the global economy. India's promising growth trajectory is being steered by a suite of well-calibrated macroeconomic policies. The government has followed a path of fiscal consolidation while continuing to protect the vulnerable sections and investing in the economy's productive capacity. This has led to a decline in fiscal deficit and a rise in capex spending, improving the quality of government spending. As a result, the central government's revenue expenditure to capital outlay ratio nearly halved from 7.1% in FY18 to 3.3% in FY25, as per budget estimates, that is. A key pillar of India's policy framework has been infrastructure development. Over the past decade, national highways have expanded significantly, with projects like Bharatmala transforming our connectivity. The expansion of high-speed corridors and 4-lane roads has not only reduced transportation costs, but also boosted logistics efficiency, positioning India as a more competitive destination for global trade. The improvements of India's logistics performance index, rising from 54 in 2014 to 38 in 2023, are a testament to the government's focused efforts. Several landmark sector-specific reforms have played a role in ensuring stability and aiding growth. The implementation of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in 2016 significantly helped strengthen the balance sheets of private corporations and public sector banks and enhance the banking sector's capacity to lend. The rollout of GST in 2017 has unified the domestic markets, creating synergies for both. The reduction in the corporate tax to one of the lowest in the world in 2019 has enabled corporates to build reserves for investment. Continuous unshackling of the foreign direct investment regime has led to a rapid increase in such flows in the economy. It is 706 billion, the latest FDI figures. India's digital public infrastructure has aided in enhancing the efficiency and scale of governance. The digital economy has been boosted by an increasing adoption of online payment systems and expanding use of smartphones for making payments enabled by the Jan Dhan and Aadhaar Trinity. Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile trinity. The digitization as a wave, if you want to use that expression, has brought in large-scale changes in payment infrastructure and is helping to build data layers for enriching business analytics. According to the Ministry of Electronics and IT, the percentage of the digital economy in the total economy was 10% in 2023 and is expected to reach almost 20% of India's GDP by 25-26. UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, has also gone global and has gained acceptance in France, United Arab Emirates, Singapore, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Mauritius. Another vital aspect of our policy agenda, has been strengthening of India's financial sector. The soundness of a banking system, marked by low levels of NPAs and enhanced provisioning for bad loans, reflects the reforms we have undertaken to improve asset quality. The financial system's ability to support the economy during periods of stress while maintaining a high level of capital adequacy is crucial to ensuring that credit continues to flow into productive sectors. Additionally, the rapid expansion of financial inclusion, with 80% of our adults now having bank accounts, has provided a solid foundation for future growth, enabling more individuals to participate in the formal economy. Just a brief number of this. When in 2014 the Jan Dhan accounts were started, much to the criticism of very many observers, saying they are zero balance accounts, banks can't afford servicing them because that will mean some money. Why would the government want to waste its time and resource driving this? Today, the zero balance accounts have together amongst themselves a deposit or savings of 2.30 lakh crores in their Jan Dhan accounts. So, even the smallest account keeper, based on his digital footprints of his withdrawing cash or putting in money or doing his business transactions through his accounts, have become credit worthy, and as a result, these zero balance account holders are today benefiting from two schemes of the government, PM Mudra and PM Swanidhi, but besides that, through the account aggregator, are able to negotiate between banks to pick and choose whichever is the lender which is suitable for them and for their requirements. It is a phenomenal change in terms of financial inclusion. It's not a patronizing, come you also have an account. Today their digital footprints based on their transaction ability, they are themselves becoming credit worthy, that they can access the kind of small ticket loans that they want. And no bank is spending additional money on it because all this is digitalized. So I would think this is a phenomenal achievement of Prime Minister Modi's vision that every individual, once given access to the banking facility, will know where he will be. And today we know where they are together. India's trade policies have also undergone significant reform, with a focus on facilitation and greater integration with key economic partners. India is fostering a more competitive and export-oriented economy by pursuing deep free trade agreements with nations like the UAE and Australia, alongside initiatives such as the production-linked incentive schemes and One District, One Product scheme. Moreover, the government's emphasis on innovation supported by strategic investments in research and development is helping India transition into knowledge-driven economy. Through programs like the Anusandhan Research Foundation Fund, the government is fostering collaboration between academia, industry, and research institutions to drive innovation across the sectors. Emerging economies, including India, face the challenge of balancing growth aspirations with the need for prudent economic management amidst global uncertainties. In the current global landscape, characterized by both economic uncertainty and technological disruption, policymakers must carefully navigate the path between growth and stability. The energy transition is a prime example of this delicate balancing act. As India works to meet its energy demands, it must also contend with the need to reduce carbon emissions while adapting to consequences of centuries of legacy emissions by developed countries. One data point there, India's per capita emission is 1/3 of the global emission rate. So we are nowhere near the greatest polluting nation, despite the legacy problems that we have. 1/3 is what we emit even today. So expectation for India to comply with emission-driven, sustainable, are all there. We are committed to do it, but the picture should be clear that we are not starting from a point of weakness. India's energy policies, therefore, will need to strike a careful balance between environmental responsibility and economic growth. Furthermore, India must continue to strengthen its position in the geopolitical landscape. As the world undergoes a realignment of power dynamics, emerging economies like India would need to navigate complex international relationships. This would require a nuanced approach to diplomacy where economic interests are balanced with strategic concerns. As countries look inwards, globally there is the added risk of regress towards deindustrialization. The goal of rebalancing in strategic sectors is a lofty one for several emerging market economies, especially in the context of higher import prices on account of rising tariffs, lesser ease of knowledge and technology diffusion across borders, and supply chain disruptions which exist now and possibly newer ones can come in to key commodities and resources. The fiscal costs of experimenting in the industries where a natural comparative advantage is not yet visible also mean that other developmental priorities could be compromised. EMEs, particularly the emerging markets in the south, walk a tightrope as the upsides to developing a resilience in strategic sectors is high, but the downsides can come at the cost of attaining development goals. Ironically, there exists the possibility that industrial policies worldwide can stir a race to the bottom and result in deindustrialization. Another key challenge, I've just got 1 more minute, I will not take more of your time doing a monologue, but another key challenge for India is managing the social impacts of technology and technological changes. The advent of new technologies is likely to have a profound effect on labor markets, particularly for a country like India with its vast youthful workforce. So while technology offers immense opportunity and potential for boosting productivity and innovation, it also poses a risk on to job security, especially for low-skilled workers. The government is therefore focused on fostering skill development and education to ensure that our workforce is equipped to thrive in digital economy. So in conclusion, by 2047, as India celebrates 100 years of independence, we will have a chance to define a new era of prosperity, not just for our own citizens, but for the global community as well. India's role in the world is expanding, and we stand ready to engage constructively with the international community, sharing our innovations and contributing to global peace and prosperity. You would have seen that in action. These are not plain words. During COVID, the vaccine that was developed in India, patented in India, manufactured to scale in India, were distributed freely. And also the digital platform which was used to keep a record for the consumer's period and for the citizen's spaces as to who took which vaccine and when was the next vaccine due, have also been shared with countries. We didn't sit on proprietary and say, no, this is ours, we should not share. India has always been ready to share. So the coming decades will be defined by how effectively India manages its demographic dividend, strengthens its global partnerships, and navigates the complexity of a rapidly changing world. While there are challenges ahead, there are also abundant opportunities for India to lead the way, not just in economic terms, but in shaping the global discourse on technology, sustainability, and inclusive growth. So thank you for listening patiently to me.
So, Minister, you are at the School of International and Public Affairs, and in half an hour, you've basically given them 2 years worth of course. So you started with economics, macroeconomic management. You talked about inclusive growth. You've talked about geopolitics. You've talked about energy transition. So in a way, I think you saved